Hello Internet, Victor here, and today I'm bringing to you some topics that are very important. They made me play like myself. They made me sound like Victor and not like Greg Howe, for example, or Guthrie Govan. Of course, they are here because they are masters of improvisation and they can do basically anything they want on the instrument. And why is that? Because they know those rules, because they practiced knowing those things that I think they are more important when you're improvisation than the theory itself, than the memorization of shapes, the memorization of scales. Those things are good, but they are just tools. And if you don't know how to use the tools, so what else? What can we do with the tools if you don't know the purpose? So yes, it's very important to always think about those 5 things I'll tell you on this video when you try to achieve your own sound, when you try to achieve something meaningful while you are improvising. And that's what we're gonna talk about in a minute. First thing I want to tell you here is the importance of having a motif, the importance of having a line, a melody, a fragment of a melody, anything that resembles people home, anything that makes people feel relaxed while you're playing, because they know it's not random at all. It does have some meaning and you can work at it in many ways. You can create just a pattern of notes and repeat it in many places and you have a motif. Or you can create a line, a melody, and you always repeat this melody after throwing some tensions, and you can modify this melody in many ways that makes people feel out of key but out of home, and at the same time at home. It's important to have those ideas because they'll make your playing feel coherent. It's important to have coherence. It's important when you're writing a text, and even though you are talking about many things, between the paragraphs you have to put something to connect one to another. They are not just separate paragraphs. And on your play, and you are not playing like now I'm gonna play pentatonic and after I'll play Dorian and everything's fine. It's not like this. You have to connect the ideas, and one way to connect everything in a very good way is to have in a motif, is to have a melody. And I can show you here how to do it. Let me just throw those guys out. They are on the way. What's that? Here. Okay. So I'll show you an example. Let me see. You can see the guitar. Okay. Now you can see the guitar. It's good enough. Let's. A good way to practice developing motifs is by learning melodies that you like. Just learn the melodies. You don't have to bother learning the entire song. Like Greg Howe, the songs of Greg Howe, they are quite impossible to play the way it's on the CD. Even Greg Howe can do it. Anyone can do it. They are mountains to climb. You spend months and months practicing it in order to play. And yeah, some people like to do it, and it's not very important if you want to sound like yourself. Just learn what you like. Learn the melodies that Greg Howe's use. Learn how he approaches the rhythm on this passage, and you are good to go. And you have improved your vocabulary. You can do that as many times as you want. In one day, you can learn many melodies if you have a good relative pitch, or even if you have a good technique, you can learn any melody you want in the guitar. You don't even need technique because melodies are quite simple, and they are quite useful as well. As you saw in the improvisation, you can use them as tools of bringing people home, on bringing meaning to what you're playing. It's not just a bunch of notes anymore. It's something meaningful. And you know how to balance it while you are improvisation if you practice enough and if you follow the other tips I'm going to give you right now. The second idea here is to explore rhythmic variations, and it seems to be something not very useful, not very important, but it's maybe the most important thing on this lesson. Pay attention. Usually guitarists play the same taka 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 taka, 8th note, 16th note, taka 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 taka, forever and ever and ever. And oh my god, if you just do it on improvisation, like this thing here, guitarist play. You can't even play it as clean as you want if your BPM is very high. And it's annoying, man. It's annoying. If you play just the same notes, you feel like a machine gun. And that's why I really like John Petrucci. He does it and he makes it feels like music. I don't know how. He's a magician. He's a very good guitarist. So that's why I really enjoy John Petrucci, because he can play those exercises, those patterns, and make them sound like music, because he have a very good sensibility of what he's playing. He's not just playing a bunch of notes, even though it seems to be a bunch of notes. But there's something there. One way to avoid this, if you are not John Petrucci, is to vary the rhythmic thing. Play 3 notes per dun 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 dun. This makes a very... I'll show you here right now. So, yeah. Well, there are 2 ways, 2 exercises you can do to develop your rhythmic variations and to have this sense of space and time when you're playing, to have this swing. Just listen to music. It's the first exercise. Listen to music that are based on rhythm, like samba, for example, like funk, for example, like taiko, or maybe Indian music. They use another system to measure time, and it's good to get in contact with those music that are not really Western, popular European music that usually is in 4/4, especially pop music. Why is it 4/4? Because it's easy to sing, it's easy to follow, and it's our culture. So for us, it's the normal way of singing music, and for others, it's not the normal way of singing music. That's why they have different systems, and you have to learn. You can learn from them. You can search on YouTube samba. You can listen, and then you learn. Then you adapt your ears to these things, and then after listening a lot, your playing will change as well. Of course, we learn by the things we hear. And the other exercise, of course, is the old one, the metronome thing. You will put metronome in a very slow tempo, and you just play 2 notes per beat, 3 notes per beat, 4 notes per beat, 5 notes. When it gets to 5 notes per beat, it's quite hard if you are not used to do it. So I suggest you to go slow, like 60 BPM, maybe 50 BPM, and things like this. Between 50 and 70 BPM would be good enough. And if you want to go 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 notes, then even slower, to have this feeling of multiple notes in the same measure, it can help a lot. These are the 2 exercises you can do. Listen and practice with metronome. The next 2 things I'm gonna talk about are very connected, even though they don't seem very connected, but they are. What do I mean by beginning, middle, and end, first of all? Well, when you start a phrase, you start by some note, and you end in another note. And the note you start usually leads to other notes. They have gravity between them, so you have to have this in mind. And how to understand it, and the best way to understand it, it's to develop your relative pitch and understand how an interval can affect the feeling of the song, the feeling of the harmony, the context. Everything is connected. So if you understand the chord that's playing and the function of the chord, and you know that if you play a minor sixth during this chord will cause some effect, beforehand, then when you play it, you will play more confidently. So it's good to understand the effect of some intervals to define where to begin and where to end. It's very common that guitarists play very difficult things. Like Greg Howe usually has a technique that he brought to light, which is a sweep with tapping with sweep picking combined. And this is a very difficult technique to master, but you can master it. And then what do? You just play upside down. You understand? There's no beginning, middle, and end. There's no story. There's just a thing happening. I'll show you the technique here, because why not? It's on the first VHS of Greg Howe. I'll show you how he does it. It's like you can do minor or major or anything, but it's basically you can do the entire sweep, but I'll just do here. So yeah, it's C, I think, C major. I played a minor note there and it was awful. You see, if you try to do something very difficult, you have to keep in mind that you can make everything sound bad. So if you are doing something difficult, first off, prepare yourself to do it and train a lot and know where to go. The notes of the arpeggio are always nice to end, but depending on the next chord, you also want to go out. Maybe do this. Maybe things like this will be better. You know, there was a story here. There was a so it's more like music than to just. No, even if you change the rhythm of the thing, that, as I said before, if it's just the exercise, if it's just the sweep thing, and you stay on the same place and you go anywhere else, you are stuck in it. It's just a piece of leak, and a piece of leak, it's a thing that you can predict what will happen, and it's not good to improvise. It's not a good idea to do it while improvisation, because you get stuck. And yeah, you sound like predictable and not interesting to the listener and to yourself. You get boring of playing the same sweep thing always and always and always and always, and you'll be like, I don't want to play guitar anymore because it's sounding bad. Of course it's sounding bad. You're playing the same thing all over again. Your ears don't want to do it. If you look to the sun for 1 hour straight, your eyes will also burn. And what do you think will happen to your ears if you're playing something very complicated for this long? It's not good. So know where to go and develop your relative pitch to know the effect of those places you go. Know the effect of the minor sixth, the minor third, and what they can do with the harmonic context you are in. This is very important. And to develop the relative pitch, one exercise that's very good is to sing what you're playing. So listen. Here. No, it's very out of my range. That's it. You know, I'm not a good singer. Most of it was out of perfect pitch, perfect tune. But it's important to practice, because then your brain will know the sound of the interval and not your fingers. And if you don't practice solfege, which is very important, we usually don't know what we are playing. We are just moving our fingers. And Guthrie Govan, for example, I think he has absolute pitch, perfect pitch. So he has everything on his brain. If he has an idea, he can play on guitar instantly. Of course, it's hard to get at this level, but if you start practicing pentatonic shapes but solfeging, you notice a big difference, because now you were thinking before you were playing, and this is important to sound like yourself. And most of you probably have some melodies on your head, but you can't play instantly on the guitar. It's obvious. But if you practice it, someday maybe you can do it at your improvisation. It's a process, and you have to start right now by solfeging, by practicing relative pitch. The last thing I want to tell you on this video, and once again, maybe the most important thing to develop your own sound, to develop your style, is to record yourself playing. Please put a camera in front of you and record it. And after you play the improvisation, listen to it carefully. Pay attention and see where do you commit a mistake. Of course, on improvisations, there are no mistakes. It's valid, especially if you're playing jazz. But some things makes you feel better than others. Maybe you play this line. It's on the scale. There's nothing wrong with this. But this note, the last note, you didn't like the last note. You didn't like because it's subjective. On the context of the harmony, you thought that this note was bad, was out of place. So if you analyze it carefully, you can solve this problem by trying to playing another melody, another note on the end of this piece of melody, and then you have another result, and then you enjoy yourself better, like this. Instead of, you can do. So there are different things. They sound similar, but they are different. And you only know what do you prefer if you listen carefully of other players, if you analyze your own playing, and if you make those adaptations. And you can do it right now. You can do it right now. You can record yourself playing improvisation and see where you didn't like, and finally develop your own melodies and develop your own style, unique, different than Greg Howe and different than Guthrie Govan, for example. They are there because they are important, but you have to ask yourself if you really just want to sound like them, and if it's possible, or if you want to sound like yourself, and if you want to express something new, and if you want to develop other techniques. You always have to be critic with your own playing, and it's good to also post on YouTube to hear from other people. And of course, there are people that don't know what they're saying, and there are people that know what they're saying. You have to to deal with that. Part of the process of formulating a sound and formulating an idea is to hear sides, to hear opinions, to hear yourself, and to reflect. So if you spend 3 hours just playing, improvising, maybe you won't get better. Maybe you just play the same thing all over again, and you'll be very stuck at the same point. And maybe if you play just 30 minutes, but use the rest of the day to analyze what you played on those first 30 minutes, then maybe you can develop another ideas and develop your own sound. That's what I'm saying. It's not about how many times you practice, but the way you practice. And record yourself, analyze the video, post the video. Those tools are good to have to develop your identity as a guitarist. Thank you for watching this video. It's always nice, it's always good, it's always fulfilling to help others with knowledge. And if you want to learn more, please consider subscribing. I'll still post videos like this, I hope. And chances are they will be better than this one. So if you liked this one, you probably like the others, so consider subscribing, and yes, see you next time. Victor is going out. Practice guitar. Don't forget.